Hello and welcome to ACS Golf and this week's review. I'm looking at this, the 0211 PXG irons from 2019. Now, if you're a returning viewer to my channel, you already know that I have reviewed the 2023 version of these, so the brand new ones that are still out. If you're new, go and check that video out on my channel because it is a great video. And also, if you're brand new, remember to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you do not miss weekly golf reviews. Now moving on to why I picked these up, especially the fact that I've reviewed the brand new ones 2023 and thought they were great, and especially the fact you can pick them up, per club $99 if you're in the US, or in the UK £99, which is an absolute bargain for PXG because they really have progressed as a brand over the past couple of years to get really good stuff into your hands. But for this, you can get 5 to pitching wedge for £250. So that's still a hell of a lot cheaper than going out and buying brand new when it comes down to the brand new model. And the brand new model, obviously, as well on the second-hand market, is higher than this. And also, when these came out, they weren't $99, they weren't £99, they're $195 when these first came out. So technically, they were more premium than the 0211 range that is out at the moment. So I wanted to really get these and feel if they are in fact more premium, if I think they're better than the 0211, which is quite a weird thing to say. An older club is actually better than a newer one because maybe they cut corners to make them cheaper, to get them out to you guys for less money. And also just to see if you can go and save yourself some money on the second market and pick these up. Because I was also interested in the lofts, because the lofts of these are a lot weaker than the 0211 brand new ones from 2023. So it makes quite interesting reading. And I'll get into all of that in the ACS Golf Scale at the end and give you my overall feel about these clubs. So without further ado, as always, let's have a closer look at the club. Missed the head there. Closer look at the club. Then we'll come back here, go for all the technology that's in there. Then we'll get down to driving range, which is actually in the summer, surprisingly. So I'm in shorts because I actually had these in a bag over the summer to give them a real good test. Because I'm not going to lie to you straight off the bat, I really did enjoy them. Why I took them out of my bag, I do not know, and I'll discuss that at the end. But I took down the 6, the 8, and the pitching wedge there, so I'll give you the figures for that, and then we'll come back here for the ACS Golf Scale. Okay, there we go. As always, let's have a closer look at this club. So there you go, a closer look at the clubs, and I really do think they're a good looking club, to be fair. Really nice iron, looks sleek, maybe a little chunky on the bottom there, but that's the idea for forgiveness and helping with turf interaction. So let's get into the technology then. So with these irons, I will say they are a progressive set. So the idea with these is obviously, unlike all the other versions that PXG released, they're cast, you can't change them. They're very much, this is what you get. You either like it or you don't. And that's the whole point of bringing down that price point. So basically what they did in the longer irons from 7 upwards, it was sort of based on the XF version. So it was at the time, it was the XF Gen 2 version, which was their more forgiving, longer iron, to really help you. It's a little bit more close as well to stop that sort of slice, but basically more sort of game improvement iron. And then when you get down to like the 8, all the way down to the pitching wedge, it was more like your player's iron. So it was actually based around the P Gen 2, which is more your player's iron. So you got more control just for your approach shots, basically, but less forgiveness. And it's a really good idea that, because a lot of people, do struggle with their longer irons, hitting. They want that bit more forgiveness, you want a little bit more distance as well, but then you still want that control on your shorter ones, especially when you're around the green. You don't want to be suddenly hitting your 9-iron 160, 170 yards or something, unless you normally hit your 9-iron 160, 170 yards. But what I'm saying, if you hit your 7, 170, you don't want your 9 anywhere near really near that. So I quite like that idea with a progressive set. I mean, another example of progressive sets, because all the brands sort of do them now, where they not necessarily just do one set like PXG have here, but they tend to do mix and match. So MP20s, for example, a couple of years ago, I got the HMBs in here at the moment, but I've got them the whole way through. So what they did is a lot of people, a lot of players, because they kept the loss relatively similar, would have the HMBs, which have more forgiveness in your longer irons, and then have maybe the MMCs or even just the normal MP20 blades in your shorter for that control. So it's quite cool that they did that. You know, really does help a player, means they can just go and get one set, get the forgiveness in your longer irons and get it shorter. So it really was a good idea for them, to be fair, and I do like it. And they still do that now with a progressive set. The only issue I have with it is you can leave a little bit gap in the middle of the bag. You know, your 6 and your 7 might not, oh no, sorry, your 7 and your 8 might be a little bit too much of a big gap there, because suddenly the iron has changed into basically another model. But we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Going further into the technology now as well, which I'm reading off PXG's website, which I love reading off PXG websites. Always read it, because every iron they produce is the best thing in the world, the biggest, the furthest, etc., etc. Not necessarily the case, but don't get me wrong. As I've already said, they do make some really good stuff. So here we go. This is what they said about this. And the headline is simply amazing. We challenge our engineers to build an outstanding but more affordable iron. And they did. The results surprised even us. Our 0211 irons launch higher, go further and more forgiving, and have a sweet spot the size of Texas. I doubt that very much. But anyway, these irons are so good we decided to make them available now to you at an outstanding price. But you need to act now, because when they're gone, they're gone. Oh, there you go, a bit of marketing for you. So how did our engineers make our original 2019 0211 iron so amazing? We packed our original 2019 0211s with 3 key Gen 2 technologies. First and most important is a hollow body design filled with our Core 2 polymer, the world's thinnest face, made possible by the Core 2, and a 360-degree undercut perimeter channel around the club face that enables the functional size of the face. These 3 technologies combined result in the club that goes further, launches higher, feels softer, sounds great, it's more forgiving, and has a sweet spot of the size of Texas. So there you go. So there you go, 3 key technologies they've got in there. So going into that, the world's thinnest face. The face is formed from high-strength HT1770 margining steel that measures just 1.5 millimeter thick, about the thickness of a penny. The weight saved by using a thin face allows more mass to be positioned in areas of the club that helps to optimize launch conditions and MOI. So there you go. That's always good. Now moving on to the Core 2 technology, and they've improved this. They've sort of kept it and run with it. You still find that sort of core tech all the way in their 0211 irons, and I think even their normal irons as well. So Core 2 technology. Core 2 is a low-density, high-speed vibration dampening material with explosive COR, so coefficient of restitution. There you go, restitution properties. Whatever that means. If someone does know, please do let me know in the comments down below. Injected to PXG's external face perimeter cutout design, the material supports an extremely efficient energy transfer, helping produce a more consistent response, incredible accuracy, and an outstanding feeling at impact. Sounds amazing, doesn't it? As always. And this is very much that hollow iron here. So this, at the time when it was released, went up against my MP20 HMBs, went up against the tailor-made P790s as well, where all this sort of hollow body technology irons really hit off in that sort of period. And then we've got a 360-degree undercut channel. So without changing the optical size of the face, PXG's internal face perimeter cutout design creates a 15% larger functional face area. This yields a larger trampoline for the Core 2 material to react, producing faster ball speed and a larger sweet spot. So there you go, all the bells and whistles in this, you know, which at the time was PXG's cheaper iron, you know, and their 0211 still is their cheaper iron. It's quite cool, really, and just really, really good, to be fair. You know, they really did pump it with technology. So anyway, so there's all the technology in the club. Now let's get down to the range. I'll throw some figures at you for the 6, 8 and the pitching wedge. Then we'll come back here for the ACS Golf Scout, and I'll give you my overall thoughts of this club. And I'm not going to lie, it's probably going to be quite good. Okay, let's get down to that driving range when it was nice and warm in the summer. If you're watching this in the summer, I'm filming this bit in the winter, so that's why I mentioned it. Anyway, let's get down to the range. So here I am down at the range on a nice summer's day, definitely a lot different from today's weather as I'm doing this voiceover in the middle of winter. Anyway, let's get into those figures. So first of all, a couple of shots with the pitching wedge, then the 8 iron and then the 6 iron. Now with the pitching wedge, I was getting a flat carry of 120 yards, total distance 121 yards, ball speed 95, launch angle 29 and height 87, so happy with that. 8 iron, so on average I had a flat carry of 150, total distance 152 yards, ball speed 111, launch angle 22 and height 90. So really happy with that, to be fair. Great stopping distance as well from the 8 iron there, only 2 yards rollout, which is exactly what you want personally, because you know the 8 iron is again still one of your shorter clubs, so technically you're sort of approach clubs, I would say. And then we get into the 6 iron. So on average I had a total carry of 176 yards, total distance 183 yards, ball speed 121 miles per hour, launch angle 18 and height 85. So with the 6 iron I was getting more distance than I would normally get with my normal 6 iron, but I was getting quite a lot of rollout, which sort of explains the fact, you know, that the pitching wedge and the 8 iron are sort of based over the other model, which is more your sort of players model, while this 6 iron is obviously after that XF model, which is more your sort of forgiving distance iron. So that would explain those figures there, that I was getting a little bit more distance, and also that I wasn't quite getting the stopping power that I would hope from a 6 iron. So there you go, some figures for you. But just before I jump into the ACS goal scale, I just wanted to mention the lofts of these actually, which I did forget to mention in the last part. So your 4 iron is 21.5 degrees, okay. 5 iron 24 degrees, 6 iron 27 degrees, 7 iron's quite strong at 31 degrees, you know, normally a bit closer to like 34, 35. 8's 35 degrees, 9's 40 degrees, and pitching wedge is 45 degrees, which is a little bit more traditional. You're getting close to that 46. With the brand new ones, they're a lot stronger than that. Do check out my video. I think the pitching wedge was around 42, 43. So they did ramp up those, ramp down the degrees to get a little bit more distance. But generally not that bad, especially when the playing irons there, you know, 35 for an 8, you know, maybe a little bit strong, but 9 and pitching wedge sort of getting closer to normal. So not bad at all. Now going into the numbers, and you can see from the numbers, you know, there is that progression there, isn't it? Where the club head changes pretty much from your 7 upwards, there possibly is that gap. You know, pitching wedge was roughly where I want it to be, around 120 yards, maybe a little bit more to be fair, probably prefer it around that 130 or close to that 130 to be fair. I did get a few around the 130, but not quite there. It was a little bit short, but never mind. Probably because, you know, it's got a weaker loft, which is fine compared to, say, again, improvement irons, which I'm sort of judging that on there. 8 iron, exactly what I want, 150 yards, and good stopping distance. You know, 150 yards, 150 yards carry, total distance 152 yards, so 2 yards rollout, perfect. Exactly what I want. You know, for those short irons, I want that ball hitting the green, I want it staying on the green, and that's what that 8 iron did. So very happy with that. But then we get to the 6. Normally for me with my irons, for example, my HMBs, you know, I'm pretty consistent, normally sort of about 10 yards or maybe a little bit more per club. So for me, I'd say an 8 iron 150, yes. 7 iron about 160, maybe a little bit more, and then a 6 iron about 170, a little bit more. But this 6 iron was going 183 yards on average. So then you can see the progression there, and it's like, well, hold on, I might have a little bit of a gap between my 8 and my 7, which isn't great. Don't get me wrong, I played with this all summer. These clubs, did I notice that much? No, I really didn't on the golf course, to be fair. I didn't really notice that much of a difference. I don't think I was ever at one point going, oh, this is in between my 7 and my 8. So not the end of the world, but do be aware that you will have that little bit of a gap there where the type of club changes, because pretty much it's a different club from the 8. No, the 7's a different club from the 8 because it's a different model inside. So do be aware of that. But again, the lofts, you know, they do it enough with the lofts and the technology in it to get the ball up in the air a bit more that, you know, you don't really notice it that much on a golf course. But again, you can see with this that it is that sort of more forgiving XF, a little bit stronger lofts, you know, because the rollout was quite high, 176 yards, carry, you know, a rollout of 7 yards, not the end of the world, it's 183 total distance, but not great. You know, there's a few there where the rollout was getting close to that 10 yards. So, you know, you could aim for a green with this and then it could roll off, you know, especially in summer, you know, we'll just keep on going. While my 6 and this, to be fair, you know, I've hit it, got it on the green and got it, you know, stopping 1 or 2 yards. So not great, but not the end of the world, to be honest. You just need to be aware of it when you're shooting into greens. You know, for me, I use game improvement irons beginning of the year, the JPX 91 hot metals. I reviewed them as well, so do check out the channel for that. And again, they were great, but I was always aware that I'd have to shoot at the front of the green because I knew that it was going to roll off the back. And it sort of gets similar-ish, not as extreme, but similar-ish with these irons, just because of that sort of game improvement. Same height, same flight as your normal, but because there's less spin, because there's a weaker loft, it just means it just rolls on a little bit more. It doesn't stop as much, but not the end of the world. So let's get into the ACS golf scale. So we've got 5 categories. We've got distance, feel, looks, price, and forgiveness. For those who haven't seen my channel before, 5 being the best, 0 being the worst. Never given a 0. Maybe one day I will. Who knows? But anyway. So distance for me, 3.5 out of 5. I think the distance is really good. I don't necessarily think it's close to game improvement. I think maybe the 6 and the 5 are closer to game improvement. I mean, you know, 180, 185, it is pretty much nearly there for game improvement iron, say the JPX hot metals that I just mentioned to you guys. So it is getting close to it, but it's not quite there because they're not game improvement. They're in that sort of middle category. Well, these are closer to the game improvement, the 6 plus, etc. But, you know, the player's iron, so the 8 downwards, is closer to that sort of player's distance, I'd say. But I think 3.5 out of 5 is fair. I think the distance is very good. Not quite there at game improvement, but is good, especially in the long irons. And the shorter irons, just be aware that they might not go as far as you'd expect with the long irons, but still the distance is pretty good. You know, the 8 iron, which is your normal one, so based on the P rather than the XF, you know, I still get 150 yards plus on it, so really happy with that. So distance, 3.5 out of 5. Feel I'm going to leave to last because let's remember this is a cast iron. This isn't forged, this is cast, so I want to discuss that in a little bit more depth. Looks, again at 3.5 out of 5. As I mentioned before, I think it's a good looking iron. I think it catches heads with a PXG all over it. I'm just not necessarily a fan of the way it sort of expands out like this. It is a bit longer than your normal iron. That's a bit weird as well. And I think your playing irons as well, because they're based on a different model, they're quite, you've got the pitching wedge there, they're quite round, which I'm not a huge fan of, to be fair. But overall, good, 3.5 out of 5. Can't really complain. Moving on to forgiveness. These clubs do not have a sweet size, the sweet spot the size of Texas, like PXG were claiming, but the forgiveness is good. So overall, I've given it a 3. You know, in your longer irons, maybe you could say 3.5 because they are that XF version. In your lower ones, you know, 3. That's why I've given it a 3, but maybe a little bit lower than a 3. So overall, I've given it a 3. They do have good forgiveness, and they're definitely close to the game improvement side of it rather than your player's distance. But overall, I've given them a 3. So, which isn't bad at all. It's still plenty enough forgiveness for even possibly your higher handicappers who strike lines pretty well to put them in the bag. So that's not bad at all. Now we'll go on to feel before we get to prize. Feel for me is a 4 out of 5. These are by far the best cast iron feeling cast irons that I've ever felt. They really are. They feel nice and soft. They feel powerful, springy. They just feel really good. And I have to admit, you know, these are, like I said, 4 out of 5. I've been playing with my MP20 HMBs for quite a while. Same thing, hollow construction, but forged. And I had these. And I took down the 5 of the PXG the other day. And I hit the 5 straight out the middle, first shot. I was like, actually, these possibly feel even better than the HMBs, which are supposed to be forged. Possibly, not necessarily, but possibly. They really do feel really nice. And I'm really impressed by the fact that it's a cast iron and they managed to get that good feel out of it. So 4 out of 5, feels lovely. Relatively know where the mishits are. Got good control on the lower iron, so 4 out of 5, very happy with. Now on to the last one. Now, as I mentioned, if you look on eBay, I'm seeing them selling over here in the UK, £227, which is around $280. Another set 5 to pitch and wedge, £245, including postage as well, which is just around $300. Another one for £257, which is just around that sort of $321, which I think is a great price. Because you've got to remember as well, these are cast. So you get a little bit more battered in the bag, unlike the Forge. You're not going to have the dents all, don't get me wrong. Look at this, there's a few dents on it from bag clatter, but they're not going to get as battered. And, it's premium stuff. You've got your true temper shaft in there as well. PXG grips are great. So it's a premium iron. So you can basically get 5 to pitch and wedge for £250 in the second-hand market on eBay, which I think is an absolute bargain. I really do, for this quality of iron. Especially the fact that these were $200, per iron back in the day, which is only 4 years ago. I really do think it's great. So I've given it price-wise 4.5 out of 5. I really do think it's great. Definitely, if you're thinking about the O211s with a progressive set, definitely have a look at these. Unless you really want more game improvement side of it, then maybe go for the other ones because they're lower lofted. So they'll probably go a little bit further, which they definitely did. But overall, very, very happy. So overall, my thoughts of this, very good clubs, love them. Had them in the bag myself over the summer. Why did I take them out? It's sort of the question. I think purely the reason I've taken them out, if I get out the 6, it's just probably looks. And the fact I'm a massive fan of Mizuno. So, look at that Mizuno. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And the Mizuno is pretty much exactly the same, to be fair. The sole's a little bit thin. I don't think you can see it there, but I think it's just pretty much down to looks. There's a little bit smaller club. I prefer a smaller club behind the bag. But I think that's generally the reason, to be honest. If you went to pick between these two, I really don't think there's anything in it apart from price. I remember when these first came out in 2019, and I think it's a chap called The Average Golfer who's got quite a few followers, did a review on these. And he was pretty much saying, there's nothing, you can't pick between these, the TaylorMade P790s, and the MP20 HMB, sorry. The only difference was the price. And these, at the time, I think still came in cheaper. So really great irons. PXG did really well with them, and overall worth having a look at if you're looking for something like this. If you're a mid-handicapper or someone who basically strikes at irons really well, who wants a little bit more workability in your lower irons but still wants some good forgiveness in your top end, definitely go and have a look at these. PXG O211s from 2019. Because believe me, like I've said, I tried the O211s from 2023. I've done a review on them, and there's really not much of a difference in there. I think I prefer these over them, to be fair. I think these feel nicer. I'm going to put it out there. I generally think these feel nicer than the brand new ones. And because they're lower lofted as well, so not as strong, I definitely find that you have a little bit more control than you did over the other ones. So, but do let me know, if you've played O211s throughout their sort of whole life they've been around. You had the 2019 version, 2021 version. Obviously, you can now go to the 2023 version, which I'm assuming will run into 2024. If you tried all of them and had them in your bag for an extended period of time, do let me know if you think there's any difference to them. Apart from the looks, because they have changed looks-wise, if you think there's actually any difference in them and if it's worth doing. Because personally for me, I would go and save 250 quid and go and get these, because you're just going to have just as much as fun with these, maybe even better than the other ones. So do check these out. Okay, there you go, guys. There's my review of the PXG O211 irons. Doing this review really does make me think I should put them back in my bag, because they definitely give me a little bit more forgiveness to longer irons, and probably make, especially in winter, with that sort of thicker sole, would probably make my life a little bit easier. So, yeah, don't be surprised if my next what's in the bag, these have potentially made their way back in, because I don't know why they're not in at the moment. I really don't. I do love those irons, but in the middle of winter, you want as much forgiveness and chunky soles as you can possibly get, especially over here in the UK. But anyway, okay, there you go, guys. So remember to hit this video a like if you enjoyed it. Do comment down below. If you play PXG irons, what do you think? Do you think they're worth going out and getting, especially the newer stuff that seems to be a bit more reasonably priced? And also remember to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon so you don't miss weekly reviews that come out every weekend, which is generally used equipment or new equipment from possibly last year that you can still go out and buy brand new and get a good deal on, with the odd brand new equipment thrown in as well every now and again midweek. Well, on the Friday, sorry, with some other videos every now and again as well on a midweek. So there you go. All right, guys, I'll catch you soon for the next ECS Golf video. See you then. Have a good week.